All right, let's welcome in right now Paul Weir to the program. He is the 25th head men's basketball coach in NMSU history, and he was introduced about 40 minutes ago at a press conference at the Pan Am Center and joins us live right now on the phones. Coach, first off, it's Steve and Monster here in El Paso with ESPN. Congratulations on the job, and I'm sure it's been a crazy whirlwind last 24 hours for you.
It really has been. Thank you so much. I appreciate the congrats. I take some solace in knowing that to go through a process like that, I still am the right guy for the job. So it's actually comforting to know that we did go through the process. 9
years at NMSU, the last 5 as the associate head coach, yet really Mario Mocha's nationwide search kind of made us wonder, would you be the fit? But it's nice that he knew that he had his next head coach in his backyard all along. I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
No question. You know, I mentioned today I admired Mario's relentlessness and conviction of going through the process. I know there was obviously a lot of people when you're somewhere 9 years, you develop a lot of relationships, and I think a lot of those people really felt strongly about me and pushed Mario, but he held strong and went through with his search, and I'd like to think I have a very kind of similar personality, and I'm really hopeful and excited to work with him.
Paul, I know that you got your start at Iowa with Steve Alford. You also worked with Craig Neal, who's now at New Mexico. They both lobbied for you as well and talked about what a great person you are. And the more we were reading up on you, everybody kept saying the same thing. Here is the next Brad Stevens, the next great young head men's basketball coach, and he's going to get the opportunity at New Mexico State. I'm sure for you, probably pretty honored to be in that category. Yet my attitude is if they think that highly of you, then this really should have been a no-brainer.
You know what? My 2 years with Steve and Craig at Iowa were life-changing. In my first year there, Steve basically ran the number 1 defense in the country, and I learned so much from him about defense. And I think you guys also know how great of an offensive mind Craig is, and to just be around that kind of expertise day in and day out for 2 years was tremendous. And I worked my butt off for them, but it was really selfishly I was learning from them every single day, and they've both had a really big impact on who I am today.
I think what also is pretty interesting when you look at it is how many of the current and former New Mexico State players were lobbying for you as well as their pick for the next head coach.
Yeah, the responsibilities I had here were pretty big. They're probably atypical for an assistant coach, and it allowed me to really develop close bonds with these guys just because of all the work that I was doing. And I think as it came out, they were supportive of me. It wasn't necessarily anything I ever asked them to do or wanted them to do in a disrespectful way. But I think as it unfolded, people just kind of reached out to them, and they just kind of were honest about how they felt.
Coach, congratulations on the job. What can the NMSU fans expect out of this program next year now that you're the man?
I think every team takes on the personality of its head coach. And the reality is I'm different than Marvin as far as a personality goes. And I just like to hope that my personality will take on in our team. I think we're going to be tough. I think we're going to be hardworking. I think we're going to play with a sense of urgency, be physical. And I think we'll just be just an overall just kind of nastier team is my hope.
Nasty is definitely something Aggie fans would like to hear. Do you
right.
Do you plan on trying to implement a similar style of offense, or would you like to try to change that part of it up a little bit?
Yeah, no. I talked about it in the press conference today. To me, the two biggest changes we're going to have to make going forward is, 1, our attendance, and 2, our offense. Defensively, we had a better efficiency than Little Rock and Hawaii and Yale and Middle Tennessee State and all these teams that went to the tournament and had success. We had an actual better defense than them, but our offense just was not really up to par this year. So we're going to have to make some changes on that side of the ball, especially going into next year.
Paul Weir is the next head coach, the new head coach at New Mexico State. He joins us live on the phone lines as we continue here. Coach, I mentioned this right after Marvin took the job at UNLV, and that was that I really felt personally that the Aggies kind of peaked with Marvin Menzies over the last 9 years. You won countless WAC championships. You went to the NCAA tournament. Yet it seemed like there really wasn't much more that he could do at New Mexico State beyond winning a first-round game in the tournament. So really, I thought for Coach Menzies, the time was right to get that opportunity someplace else like UNLV. Just like for you, the time is right now to inject some new life into this basketball program.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think Marvin would even say the same thing. I think everything happens for a reason, and I think sometimes change can be refreshing and good, and Marvin has a new change, and I think he's really stimulated by it and excited about his new opportunity, and obviously I am as well.
How many, now, knowing you're in the late recruiting game, are you already maxed out for next season's scholarships, or do you have a few that have freed up?
We are. We have a couple of kids that have put their name in the draft, so we're just kind of still going through that process with them. But right now, we have our whole team coming back.
Well, I thought what Siakam did was very smart because he didn't hire an agent, and all he wanted to do was test the NBA waters, and I don't blame him. After the 2 years he's had, I would love to know where I would stand and then always have the opportunity to come back.
You're so right. You're so right.
Now, what about the rivalries? New Mexico with Craig, who you obviously are very close friends with, and UTEP here and Tim Floyd and the Miner fans. Is your philosophy as head coach at NMSU wanting to continue the home-and-home games and play these two teams twice a year like we have for so many years?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think anyone involved with sports has some nostalgia to them. And like I talked about today, I would love to start a series with UNLV and New Mexico State, and I think the New Mexico and UTEP games are exactly that. I mean, sports is just an opportunity to come together in competition and bring a lot of good and create a lot of new memories. So I think obviously keeping those would be at the top of the priority list.
And I think also for the fans here in El Paso and Las Cruces, they'll be the first to tell you that these games have been played for so many years in both venues, and the fans get excited, the students get excited. It would be different if all of a sudden these rivalry games were suddenly cut in half.
Yeah, no, cutting the rivalry games is not something I've ever even really thought about.
Good. Now, as far as really the scheduling goes, I'm sure that's something else you'll have to try to solidify along with the coaching staff. Have you already had the opportunity to reach out to certain individuals and look to bring them in?
Yeah, I have. I mean, we still have some contractual obligations with some staff members here that we're going to work through, and then obviously there's guys kind of in flux as far as whether they're going to go to UNLV or stay here, and there's a lot of kind of things we still need to work through. But hopefully that'll get sorted out soon and we'll get our staff done.
You mentioned attendance a moment ago as one of your goals of really trying to build this program up to where it's been in the past. How do you go about trying to get the fan base back in larger numbers on a consistent basis for your team?
You know, the number one thing is the students, and I'm going to kind of take care of them myself personally and try and get them out in really large numbers. I think we need to get the campus community on board as well, and maybe bridge whatever parts of the campus and the faculty or whatever that may not necessarily love athletics, and we've got to get them on board. And then lastly, it's just going to be the town. I think we've got to really get out in the town and kind of get people coming from there. And I think if we hit all three of those facets, we'll be able to make a really big jump next year.
I remember, it seems like it's been forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago when Reggie Theus was here prior to Marvin Menzies. And I'll say this about Reggie. He had the student fan base in a frenzy for those two seasons.
He did, no question.
And if there was ever a blueprint of trying to get it back, that's exactly where really it probably starts and ends.
You're right.
Now,
Thank you very much.
All right, Coach. Congratulations. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care.